Good day, everyone. I am Embelino Khem, a BS Criminology student from Negros Oriental State University, College of Criminal Justice Education. So for today's video, I'm going to discuss about the history, philosophy, and objectives of imprisonment and the development of prisons. Also, I will going to discuss about the personalities behind the correctional institutions. Table of contents. So, the history, philosophy, objectives of imprisonment and the development of prisons down to the personalities behind the correctional institutions. So, let's talk about that later. The history, philosophy, and objectives of imprisonment and the development of prisons. So, let's start with the Sing Sing prison. So these are the treatment, programs, and services. So these programs are treatment and services is important to help the criminal enhance their ability to help themselves. So this treatment or programs focuses on specific types of offenders such as sex offenders, violent offenders, and drug addicts. So now as most people believe, some of treatment programs will help some offenders to prevent recidivism to some extent. So from the word recidivism, it is refer to a person relapse into criminal behavior, often after the person receives sanctions or undergoes interventions for a previous crime. So the person who are considered as a recidivism. It is one who at the time of his trial for one crime shall have been previously convicted by final judgment of another crime. So let's talk about the Sing Sing prison. So in full, Sing Sing Correctional Facility Maximum Security Prisons located in Ossining, New York. So, the Sing Sing prison is located from New York. So, it is called now Ossining. So, it is also among the most well-known in the country, especially notable for its harsh conditions in the 19th and 20th century. So, Sing Sing prison also is located in the Hudson River at Ossining, New York. So, Sing Sing prisons is known as the Mount Pleasant prison. So, it was constructed in the village of Sing Sing on the east bank of the Hudson River. So, the famous prisoners were in Sing Sing. So, like Albert Fish, Gary Evans, and many more. So, also Sing Sing it was designed to provide additional prisons or space to replace Newgate Prison. So its construction was undertaken in 1825 by convict laborers under the supervision of Elam Lentz, warden of Auburn State Prison. So the Sing Sing prison is become of the most famous prison So, Olam Lanes he officially became head of the new prisons when it opened in 1826. Though it was not complete until 1821, the initial facility had 800 cells, so the prison populations rose in the mid-19th century, resulting in more construction. So by the time goes by, is it goes a populated because of the early convicted criminals traveled by boat to Sing Sing to praise of the river, so come to mean going to prison. Some of the prisoner go to the Sing Sing prison. So one of the notable visitors to the prison was Alexis de Tocqueville, author of Democracy in the America. So Alexis de Tocqueville, he is he believes Alexis de Tocqueville he believes that equality was the great political and social idea of his era, and he thought that the United States offered the most advanced example of equality in action. He visited on Sing Sing prison. So Lenz resigned as warden of Sing Sing in 1830 and returned to Auburn in 1838. So he was asked to leave the prisons a year later after the death of a prisoner who was punished severely for feigning illness. So Lenz he left to the prisons after prisoner died on the Sing Sing prison. So whipping and floggings were commonplace punishment at Sing Sing. So frequently used was the cat o' nine tails, a cruel whipping contraptions whose lashes were often tipped with metal or barbs. So it is finally abolished by the New York State legislature in 1848. So also with the advent of the electric chair in 1891, Sing Sing became notorious for its execution. So although the electric chair was developed at the neighboring Auburn, almost all executions within the state were carried out at Sing Sing until 1963. So electric chair So it is electric chair is a high profile execution. It is a old Sparky Sing Sing is electric chair is Sing Sing's its nickname Old Sparky. So it also the state of reforms the effective national penal systems reformer Thomas Mote Osborne, who developed his penalty theories while voluntarily incarcerated for a year at Auburn, served as Sing Sing's warden. During his tenure, however, the first psychological work with inmates began. So more reforms were instituted under Lewis Edward who served as warden from 1920. So, Lewis Edward So, Edward Lewis is a studied is the he discovered among the things that the positions of the fly's bodily organs match the corresponding genes positions of the chromosomes. He discovered that. So, Lewis Edward in the Sing Sing prison. Lewis Edward, he also stayed in Sing Sing prison. He also a writer and an actor. So, Osborne Thomas Mote. Thomas Mote Osborne, warden, 1914 to 15 and 1916 of Sing Sing prisons, Library of Congress, Washington. So, Thomas Mote Osborne, he is a American penologist whose integrations of self-help programs for prisoners and through mutual welfare he functioned as a model for the humanitarian programs of later penologists. So, Sing Sing prison cell. A cell at Sing Sing prisons or as in New York, CA 1910 to 15. So, Library of Congress, Washington. So, it is derived from the Sing Sing Indian tribe from whom the land was purchased in 1685, the Sing Sing prison. So, and also it was formerly the name of the village. The prison's name was changed to the Ossining. So the Sing Sing prison cell is it is a famous because Sing Sing become notorious or for its executions. Although what I said earlier that they have electric chair, so the electric chair was developed of neighboring Avon. Almost all executions within the state were carried out at the Sing Sing until 1963. So, next is the Avon system. Avon state prisons located in Avon, New York, opened in 1816 and established as disciplinary and administrative system based on silence. So, the Avon system is the penal method of the 19th century, and in which persons work during the day were kept in solitary confinement at night with enforced silence at all times. So who introduced the Airborne system? So eh, the they are two young French magistrates, so Gustave de Beaumont and Alexis de Tocqueville, were dispatched by their government to study the new American prisons system and report back on their possible application in France. So the two person, they are dispatched by their government to study the Auburn State Prison. So in the early 19th century, many Americans believed that industrialization and dramatic demographic, economic, and political upheavals and conspired against the traditional controls of the family, church, and community. So in the early 19th century, there are many Americans believe that industrializations and dramatic and demographic, economic, and political upheavals and conspired against the traditional controls. So we all know that the Auburn system was a prison model, so consisting of small and individual cells, large work area for the group labor, and enforced silence. So by the early 1820s, the Auburn prisons plan had resulted in the constructions of the tiny individual cells and workshops, as well as rigid system of the enforced silence. So they saw crime as the product of social chaos necessary to its eradication. Was a structured environment which defense could be separated from the disorder. So, in the Auburn prison, so their solution was to create a penitentiary. So, penitentiary is it is a persons for people convicted serious crime. So if we define the word penitentiary, it is comes from the Latin penitentia, meaning repentance of a sin. So a penitentiary is a place you are sent to make repentance for a crime committed. So, Auburn originally used congregate cells, but in 1821, Warden William Britton borrowed the concept of solitary cells from the so-called Pennsylvania system. So, Warden William Britton, he borrowed the concepts of Auburn system. So, we called now Pennsylvania system. So, Britain designs a unique 5-tiered cell block of 2 rows and single cells. So, he designed like cells measured only 3.5 feet and 1.6 meters wide and 7.5 feet and 2.3 meters long and 7 feet and 2.1 meters and high. So he designed doors, forts, and outer walls lined and with grated windows that provided the indirect light and air. So the Auburn system was changed because of there's a new design. So in the Auburn prison, the prisoner they are labored in congregate workshops and offsetting imprisonments caused by fulfilling private industry contracts. A hidden passageway with small openings surrounded the work area, allowing inspectors and visitors to surreptitiously monitor the inmates. So, the Airborne also is briefly implemented a three-level classification system. So it monitored offenders labored in workshops during the day and retired to separate cells at night. Serious offenders alternated their days between solitary confinement and congregate work. So the most hardened criminals were placed in solitary confinements. They are placed in those are hardened criminals. They are placed in a solitary confinement without work. And after numerous suicides, instances of mental illness, and attempted escapes, the governor of the New York terminated the classification system and the experiment in solitary confinement. So after the incidents happened, the governor of New York terminated those experiments in solitary confinement. So, subsequently, all male inmates work in congregate shops by day. They are working in day while returning to individual cells at night. So, females first committed to Airborne in 1825 were regulated to an attack and executed from regular work and exercises. So, the prisoners in the Airborne system, female or male, they have a work in and they have a work in the shops. They also in the Airborne system, they also enforce passive military routines, so absolute silence, strict disciplines, and economic productivity. So they have practice discipline. So they obey rules in the Airborne systems, or rules or a code of behaviors using punishment. So they have a punishment if they don't work in congregate shops. So in response to bills, head-shaven inmates dressed in striped clothing silently march in lockstep formation. So they have in the prisoners they dressed in striped clothing. So they have also a formation. So eventually overcrowding made the silent system unenforceable, and Airborne systems of discipline deteriorated into corrupt and lax. So after the Civil War, the spirit of reform, withheld, and construct labor was no longer prohibitable. So despite the dismiss of the ideal system. So ideal system. So the ideal system is a industry-leading broadcast, audiovisual, and media system. In the Airborne, they remained the model for nearly a century. So primarily because it had been expensive to construct and maintain of what are the um, the rules of the airborne system. So, unlike Airborne or Sing Sing, Pennsylvania's Eastern Penitentiary was tended to keep convicts separate even as they worked. So, located on Cherry Hill on the outskirts of Philadelphia. So, Eastern represented one of the most imposing expensive architectural achievements in the United States. So, and Philadelphia. So in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it is a largest cities is notable for its rich history on display at the Liberty Bill. And the Philadelphia, it is um, uh, and Philadelphia is become a top destinations for the people who want to live on the East Coast but don't want to pay New York City or Washington. So and that's the look Cherry Hill. I mean is the- it is it is a location, the Philadelphia Eastern. So although Beaumont and Tocqueville found it inconceivable that this perfect isolation requires the preserve from all fatal contamination. So the airborne plan and which seems more likely to be in able state for profit from convict labor. So, as we all know that the airborne system is a penal method in the 19th century, in which persons work during the day in groups and were kept in solitary confinement. So, that's in the airborne system. So now let's talk about the Pennsylvania system. So penal method based on the principles of solitary confinement fosters penitence and encourage of reformation. So, in 1829, the Eastern State Penitentiary on Cherry Hill in Philadelphia applied this so-called separate. So, the Pennsylvania is located on Cherry Hill in Philadelphia. So, as we all know also that the Pennsylvania system was an early prison system requiring inmate silence, individual cells, and inmate labor in those cells. So there are the main goal of the Pennsylvania system, like solitary confinement, foster penitence, and encourage reformation. So the Pennsylvania system was criticized for its being too costly due to their own focus on solitary confinement. So in the prisoners saw no one except in institutions, officers, and occasional visitor. They have as what I said, they have a solitary penitence. So, but however, was soon modified to include the performance of work such as shoemaking or weaving. So, the Pennsylvania system spread until it predominated in European prisons. So, uh, the the Pennsylvania system, so it is used isolations to foster penitence as the imprisoned persons had time to reflect on his or her methods, what his is his doings. So the the five developments of prisoners' forms of punishment. So different types of criminal punishments. The following are five of the most commonly seen types of criminal punishment. So this is the common that we can see now, the types of criminal punishment. So one is incapacitation. So, incapacitation seeks to prevent future crime by the physical moving criminals away from society. So, this punishment can be traced on ancient times. Terence Mehta and Hong Law right in punishments, a comparative historical perspective. So, within the criminal justice system, incapacitations is the response of the it is a response used when a person has committed a crime. So by incapacitating the convicted offender, we prevent the individual from committing future crimes because he is removed from society and locked up or restrained somehow. So the examples of incapacitation, so are those excarcerations, house arrest, or execution pursuant to the death penalty. So I share with you guys that it involves with punishment sending an offender to prisons or possibly restricting their freedom in the community to protect society and prevent that person from committing further crimes. So that is the theory of the incapacitation that is the incapacitations theory of punishment. So it is a prevent that the persons from committing further crimes. And so yeah, they have also aim that to prevent overall aim of incapacitations is prevent the most dangerous or prolific offenders from reoffending in the community. So punishment was a common penalty in antiquity. Later, it was common for colonizing European. Findings by the Bureau of Justice Statistics (BGS) have brought the effectiveness of this method into question. So, next is deterrence. It is the goal of deterrence is to persuade citizens and possible offenders or offenders to comport the rules of law. So, in my own understanding, the deterrence is the theory that criminal penalties do not just punish violators, but also discouraging other people from committing similar offenses. So many people point to the need to deter criminal actions after high-profile incident in which an offender it's seen to have received a life sentence. So deterrence is a military strategy under that which one power uses the threat of reprisal effectively preclude an attack from the adversary power. So specific deterrence analyze how effective punishment is on individuals' future behavior. And it also general deterrence seeks to understand how individual punish can deter others from committing crime. So the examples of the deterrence is by, for example, if there is an increase in the number of state troopers patrolling in highways on holidays or weekend, some drivers may reduce their speed in order to avoid receiving a ticket or a uh, there have also a types of deterrence like specific deterrence prevents crime and incapacitations, rehabilitation, retributions. So it also in relation to a criminal offending is the idea of jury that the threat of punishments will deter people from committing crime and reduce probability and or level of offending in the society. So this is the I also I deterrence seeks to reconcile how effective different types of punishment. Partial deterrence refers to situations in which the threat. So that's what I said like a while ago that it refers to situations. So the effectiveness of deterrence as a criminal punishment is difficult to assess because people may follow the law for other reasons that may be challenging to track such religious or moral beliefs. Next is retribution. So, as one of the oldest forms of punishment, retribution has roots in the Judeo-Christian traditions of justice. So, punishment inflicted and retribution is a punishment inflicted on someone as a vengeance for a wrong or criminal act. Um, Example of the retribution is the define something done to get back at someone or the act of punishing someone for their action. So it is a retribution. So I mean is an example of the retribution is when someone gets the death penalty for committing murder. Like death penalty is an it is a we can get a death penalty when we commit wrongdoings or we have seen. So rehabilitation. So a common prison policy in America up until the 1970s, rehabilitation focuses on helping criminals and prisoners overcome the barriers that lead them to committing criminal acts. Considered also the opposites of retributions in the ultimate purposes of rehabilitation. So, um, the rehabilitation is as it is a set of interventions designed to optimize functioning and reduce disability in individuals with health conditions and interactions with their environment. So, I mean, is retribution is my mistake. I mean is retribution. Um, I mean is it is a punishment inflicted on someone, or next is restoration. I mean is restoration. A radically different approach of criminal punishments. The goal of restoration is for the offender to make direct amends to both the victim and the community. So, the restoration is the actions of returning something to a former owner, place, or condition. So, so during the process of the restoration, victims engage a process in which both the and the offender meet to share feelings and concerns. So, um, mm, I mean, as I and the restoration, it is a dialogue offers victims the opportunity to be heard and the offender to make amends and receive forgiveness. It is when we if we commit if someone committed a crime, it amends and receive forgiveness. So there are a purpose of restoration. So in prisons is eventual reintegration so into the society, so in fully restorative prison principle and practices. So let's talk about the age of enlightenment. The 18th century age of enlightenment probably played the largest role in prison reform. So in the 18th century, prisons in the United States were generally based on Bentham's philosophies. They are basing on the Bentham philosophy. So the American prisons reassembled workhouses but strive to offer human living conditions with an eye toward reforming offenders. So and the enlightened reforms move. I mean is in the and the and the age of enlightenment. It is referred to a time period as well as the elite, elite in the 18th century cultural movement that sought to mobilize the powers of reason in order to reform society and advance knowledge. This is the age of enlightenment. So So in the central to these plans were work and imprisonment. So in the Enlightenment, reforms move away from corporal punishment seeking to design a penal system. So that will be a punishment more useful. That's in the Age of Enlightenment. So also, let's back in the Age of Enlightenment first. So in the Age of Enlightenment, in the Age of Enlightenment, in the I have a purpose and point out that during Age of Enlightenment and its later 19th century expressions, the most relevant works on law contains examples of economic ideas about the criminal phenomena under legal representation. I will um, so personalities behind correctional institutions. There are so the like personalities behind the correctional institution is a Cesar Lombroso. I think first is Cesare or Cesare Baccaria. Oh, so he is born on March 15, 1738. Italian criminologist and economist whose uh, he was a celebrated volume in the reform of criminal justice. So Cesar so Cesare Beccaria, born on March 15, 1738. So was celebrated volume on the reform of criminal justice, and he also the son of Milanese as aristocrat of modest means. From an early age, he displayed the essential traits to his chapter. So, Cesare Beccaria, he is known for um, he is well remembered for his treatise on crimes and punishment, so which condemned torture and the death penalty, and was founding work in the field of penology and the classical school of criminology. So Beccaria is considered as the father of modern criminal law and the father of criminal justice. So he also reserved as somewhat taciturn in his social contacts. So Beccaria later describes the education he received there as fanatical and stifling to the development of human feelings. In the development of human feelings, so even in his early life, Beccaria was prone to mood swings, so he tended to vacillate between fits of anger and bursts of enthusiasm, so often followed by periods of depressions and lethargy. So he was shy in social settings, so but cherished his relationship with friends and family. So Cesare Beccaria, so as we all know, he is an Italian politician, so and philosophers. So he have a greatly influenced criminal law reform of Eastern Europe. So he argued that the effectiveness of criminal justice depend more on the um, criminal justice depend more on the certainly punishments than on its severity. So he did on I mean is so he also developed his positions by appealing the two key philosophical theories, social contract and utility. So, but in the 1758, he received a degree in law from the University of Pavia. So, these are the background profile of Cesare Beccaria. So next is Marquez of Beccaria Bonicia. So it is also an Italian economist and proponent of judicial reform. He was born into a noble family in the state of Milan, which was part of Austrian Habsburg Empire. So he was temperamentally inclined to lethargy and anxiety, but when young could also be galvanized by inspirations and express his feelings in the language of Russia. So he believes that rational manner and he believes that people have a rational manner and apply in toward making choices that will help them to achieve their own personal gratification. His friendship with Pietro also is another ardent young Milanese. Reforms did not, however, outlast the 716s, for in their eyes he seemed to lose all of his vitality and to settle into a red and routine private life. So Beccaria himself dated his discovery of the Enlightenment. So that's what I talked earlier, the Enlightenment, the Age of Enlightenment. So, in the old province of Austrian Empire, including Milan, absolutist reforms emanating from Vienna continued to encounter entrance as resistance from noble and ecclesiastical corporations and from the juridical culture. So, on Crimes, Punishments of Vicarias, it was first published in 1764. So, Beccaria prepared the editions now regarded as definitive in 1766. So, in October 1766, Vera and Beccaria journeyed to Paris to bust the administration of the philosophies. So on Crimes and Punishment, there are combines elements, social contracts theory with utilitarian positions. So in the Beccaria, the penalties themselves should be carefully proportioned, like the in the corresponding crimes and calibrated to deliver. They have a minimum punishment necessarily. So Beccaria sought in all cases to minimize or abolish the use of violence and inflictions of pain. He also argued against the use of torture in the gathering of evidence. So, over the book is a sustained attack on the juridical culture of the ancient, as well as their sketch of the principles. So, he is overall is Beccaria is Bonissana is a Italian economist, the proponent of judicial reform. So, Cesare Lombroso. It is the father of modern criminology. Cesare Lombroso is a theory of the born criminal-dominated thinking about criminal behavior in the late of 19th and early 20th century. He also rejected the established classical school, which held that crime was characteristic trait, and he also used a scientific approach and concepts drawn from psychonomy, early eugenetics, psychiatry, and social Darwinism. So, together with his emphasis in the scientific method, this revolutionary approach has earned Lombroso the title Father of Scientific Criminology. So we all know that we studied Cesare Lombroso. He believed that in the criminality was inherited, and that criminals could be identified by his philosophy is the criminals could be identified by physical defects that confirm them as a being activist or savage. So Cesare Lombroso devised the now outmoded theory that criminality is determined by psychological traits. So he called the father of modern criminology. That was we see this one father of criminology. He also concentrated attention on the study of individual offender. So, Lombroso, using a scientific approach and concepts drawn from psychonomy, early eugenetics, psychiatry, and social Darwinism. That's what I read earlier. So, he also a particular defined characteristics are no longer considered valid. So the idea of factors that predispose certain individuals to commit crime. So, in criminology, Cesare Lombroso he was the first person to make crime and criminals a specific area of study. So that's why he's called the father of modern criminology. He was also the first person to write about female crime. He was also the first person to write about the female crime. She explained that. So also according to, as I recognize, according to Lombroso, the born criminal possess an array of stigma or markers that may be considered punitive evidence of their criminality. So next is William the Conqueror. William the Conqueror born on 1028 and died on September 9, 1087. So he made himself the mightiest noble in the France and then changed the course of England's history by his conquest of that country. So he is William Conqueror is famous for before he became the king of England. William was one of the mightiest nobles in France and as a Duke of Normandy. So, but he is best remembered for leading the Norman conquest of England in 1066, so which changed the course of English history and earned him the sobriquet William in the Conqueror. So, as I said, he died on September 9. So, William died after his horse reared up during the 1087 battle, throwing the king against his saddled pommel so forcefully that his stances ruptured. So next is Enrico Ferrer. So, he was born in Lombardy in 1856 and worked first as a lecturer and later as professor of criminal law. So, having spent time as a student with Cesare Lombroso, while Lombroso researched anthropological criminology, Ferrer focused more on social and economic influences. So, they are together, Cesare Lombroso and Enrico Ferrer. So Ferrer's research led to him postulating theories calling for crime prevention. So the reasons in the theory of Enrico Ferrer, he believed that the reasons of crime is not completely determined by the individual's biological genes, but the result of the combinations of physiological genes, natural conditions, and social environment. So he also have a contribution in the criminology, like postulating theories calling for crime prevention methods to be the mainstay of law enforcement. So in 1900 also in 1904 spoke out in Congress against the rules of socialist ministers in bourgeois governments. So Ferry favored Italian neutrality during World War I. So, but we all know that in the field of criminology, Enrico Ferrer he continues study of the crime because it is begun by Cesar Lombroso, so emphasizing social economic, it's emphasizing and social economic factors. So he grew against the penal systems that stress only punitive actions, recommended crime prevention instead. So as we know, what I've said, he is against the systems. Is he against the penal system. So Clifford Shaw. Clifford Roby Shaw was an American sociologist and criminologist, so he was a major figure in the Chicago School. So Shaw and Mackay's work spanned three general areas, so studying geographic and variations in rates of juvenile delinquency. So they are sociologists and founders of Chicago area project. So they are also a map addresses of the male delinquents. So they also they examine the delinquency rate in different areas. They have a Chicago area project, and they studied relationships of nativity and other social and demographic characteristics to delinquency. So Clifford Shaw and Henry Mackay initially proposed the theory of their book published in the year of 1942. They are together. So, they are highlights variation in crime rates among the neighborhoods. So, assumes that basis of crimes behavior is entirely dependent of neighborhoods' structural and cultural rates. So, this we have a Chicago area project. This is what I said earlier. So, that's all. Thank you.